Hello everybody, it's crhomatose here. There's been a lot of people on YouTube, on Reddit, all sorts of other social media platforms that have been asking me to do a very, very basics beginner tutorial. I'm going to be using FL Studio in this particular tutorial since it's my signature DAW. Everyone has been following me, since the beginning, my early records, knows that I use this DAW. I still use it even after all these years. It's kind of gone out of fashion, but I'm sort of keeping it in fashion. So the signature FL Studio bundle, the crhomatose signature FL Studio bundle should be coming out pretty soon. I don't have it yet, so it's just standard right now. That's why everything is in color instead of black and white. But regardless, it still works. Even though it's not my signature bundle, it still works. You do have to look at all the colors and everything, but it shouldn't be a big deal. Now, I know many of you aren't going to be using this DAW, but the things I'm going to teach in this tutorial are general principles that apply to basically any production. Now, what should you do when you first start out? Now, when I first started out, I was making Zolo music. It's not what most people make, but the things that happen in Zolo, I think generally apply metaphorically to most other kinds of. I've produced and mixed all kinds of music. Whale song. I've produced and mixed like dolphin song. I produced and mixed like pop songs. Pop rock, jazz rock. I produced bird song. I produced everything. Heavy metal, turtle song, or turtles swimming. So I know what I'm talking about. The stuff in Zolo basically applies across the board. Let me explain why. In Zolo, you start by trying to make the worst sound of all time. So, just as an example, and again, it doesn't matter what genre you make. I'm just going to show you how it works. It's going to work no matter what, okay? So we're going to start out and try to make the worst sound of all time. And this is usually how I used to start tracks. So we'll get something like a mallet fusion, for example, because I think this might end up sounding something like a marimba, which is the worst instrument ever invented. So it does sound vaguely like a marimba. So what you want to do is draw in the, like that's pretty good. Something like this. But a Zolo pattern might go something like this. Right? Okay. So we got something there. Now, the reason why I said that this works in any genre is because in Zolo, you have the worst sound ever created. In another genre, you might end up with the most mediocre sound ever created, the second best sound ever created, the fifth worst. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, what you're trying to do as a mixer is organize all the sounds from best sound to worst sound. So since we're starting, and this is why I think Zolo's a good one to start in. I know not many people do that nowadays. Whale song is much harder, in my opinion, as is jazz rock. Because the first sound could be any number of sounds, like pretty good sound, could be like pretty bad. Pretty bad's really hard to start with. But we have worst sound, and we know now. I like to color code them as well. So we have worst sound right away. Now, what do you do with the worst sound in a mix? If you're a mix engineer, you're trying to create a balanced mix, right? So what do you think would happen if you had, let's get the best sound as well, okay? Just right away. I eat pop rocks. So now we have the best sound. Excuse me, I'll mute myself. I'm going to color this one appropriately as well. What do you think would happen if we send the best sound and the worst sound at equal volumes into the master? Okay, let me show you what would happen. Right, I'm sending them both equal volumes. There's no sound. It's because the polarities of the best and worst sound exactly cancel out. This is not what we mean when we talk about balanced mix. So a balanced mix, this is a lot of beginners get this wrong. A balanced mix is when they're mostly balanced, but you still hear audio at the end. We never want a perfectly balanced mix. It's always implied that the mix is never perfectly balanced, because if it's perfectly balanced, where all the good and bad sounds are equally loud, you don't hear anything. So I just wanted to clear, I know that's very basic information for a lot of people, but I just wanted to clear that up. When I start out a mix, usually I'm going to mute the worst sound first, so we only have the best one. I eat Pop Rocks. Now, sometimes your perception can get clouded because you're only hearing the best sound, so you think, well, the song's perfect because it only has the best sound. But your mix is not balanced. That is that's the thing that people miss about this. Now, okay. By the way, just to clarify, I know I said at the beginning this is a general production tutorial. It's really more of a mixing tutorial. Because I could show you all day, I've been doing this for 30 years now. I could drag in, let's say a very common plugin, a Yumi. Right? And now I could drag this in, and I could tell you what every single one of these functions does. Right? This turns the chip type to YM. Okay, this turns it to legato mode, right? I'm pressing keys, and it's not doing anything, but that's because the pulse width is 4095. So that kind of thing, I will do that in future videos, but for this one, it's mainly mixing focused. Sorry, apologies for the interruption there. My child needed some food. Now, basically, at this point, you have best and worst sound. Worst sound is muted. You want to make sure you don't lose perspective on best sound. So now at this point, and you're very lucky if you end up in this position, where you have best and worst sound at the very beginning. At this point, you will end up dragging more stuff in, right? It's like Keyzone Classic maybe, right? It's a very popular plugin. I helped invent this one, actually, in 1975. Now, this is an interesting mathematical question for you here, right? We can copy this pattern exactly. Now, what do you think will happen if you play the identical pattern? Two of them at the same time. Let's mute the best sound. So, I have a lot of experience. I already know this is going to be the fourth worst sound. But that usually won't be able to tell. I mean, even experts usually can't tell. I'm lucky because I happen to help design this plugin. So if you play worst sound and fourth worst sound, well, the worst sound's like the worst sound, but the fourth worst sound, it's only a kind of worst sound. I didn't send it to the correct channel, but the same thing still happens, right? It makes the worst sound a little bit quieter. A lot of the worstness gets sucked up into the fourth worst sound. I realized this was analogous to when I got my PhD in astrophysics. I realized this was kind of analogous to the way that particles are drawn towards the nucleus for the fourth worst sound, right? It's just something for you to be aware of. And you could think of it like electronegativity, less and less intense states of neutral, basically not going to have any attraction whatsoever in either direction, right? So we can end up with that right now. So I'll show you what that's like. I have to think about this for a second, though. If we're trying to get the most okay sound, it's going to be this. Again, these are the kind of things you learn just from experience. So Right. When I produced for the Beatles, back in 1964, this is quite a bit before the Beatles' more experimental period, but John Lennon asked me, can you make the most okayest sound the second worst sound? Now, I was young and naive at the time. I thought that such a thing might be possible, because I didn't know that it had already been attempted many times. I spent weeks and weeks and weeks trying to turn the okayest sound into the second worst sound. I put everything on it. Every plugin you can imagine. A reverb. I put stereo reverb. Fuzz. And EQ. Even at the same time. And it never became even the fourth worst sound, which I want to remind you is this one. Right. Now tell me, and I want to see if you fall into the same trap as me. How on earth would you turn this into this? I know some of you fucks out there are real arrogant are gonna say, all you have to do is add enough chorus to it, okay? Well, let's see. Let's fucking see. Let's see if that's gonna turn it into this sound, okay? Okay. Now what? Now what? What do you think, huh? Look, the limiter's getting hit. You think this is turning it into the second worst sound? The fourth worst sound? Okay. Do you think this is doing anything good at all? I told John Lennon it was not possible. After 3 weeks of turning knobs all day, stereo reverb, I tried fuzz. And after this, he told me the greatest piece of advice I've ever heard from anyone. He told me, go for a walk. So that's what I did. I went for a walk. I went for a long walk. I walked all the way from Brixton to fucking Istanbul. Didn't sleep. Didn't do shit. And that is real dedication. I see so many young producers who stay up all night watching fucking videos like this one. Instead of doing anything, okay? I'm gonna turn the okayest song into the fourth worst sound. This is what their mixes sound like. This is what your mix sounds like.
When I finally got back to Brixton, after I went for my walk to Istanbul, I realized that every sound is the type of sound it has to be.